Hello and welcome to Focus on Africa, coming to you from BBC News. Well, we begin in Sudan, where fighting between the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces and the country's army continues. The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, has warned that the violence between the warring parties could escalate and spread further than we could imagine. Let's take a listen.
Since the start of fighting on 15 April, hundreds of people have been killed and thousands injured. The violence must stop. It risks a catastrophic conflagration within Sudan that could engulf the whole region and beyond.
So that was Antonio Guterres speaking there. His comments came as dozens of countries have been carrying out what they have described as complex and complicated operations to remove diplomatic staff and their families. Many foreign nationals, for example, the British, have complained of being simply abandoned by their governments amid the confusion over exactly how many people are in the country. Earlier, Nigeria, which has an estimated 5,000 citizens, most of whom are students, said that it was working to get them out by road. Meanwhile, Kenya, with around 3,000 citizens in the country, is also making plans to leave, or rather get the civilians out. Now, the capital is increasingly resembling a war zone as Sudanese civilians become trapped in their homes. For those who are taking chances and attempting that journey out, well, there is one option, which is a dangerous road journey in a convoy, often with the UN, to Port Sudan, and then a boat journey across the Red Sea. Others are travelling north towards the border with Egypt. Now, the violence is worsening the country's already desperate humanitarian crisis. And whilst calls for a pause in the fighting from the international community continues, well, attempts at ceasefires have repeatedly failed. Let's get the latest from Mercy Juma, who's our correspondent monitoring all of this from Nairobi for us. Mercy, thank you for joining us. It has been a very busy afternoon. So let us start first off with evacuations. It appears that countries are now scrambling to get their people out.
Indeed, scrambling would be the best word to use. You know, everybody is going to get their people out of Sudan first. We are seeing countries taking out the diplomats and their families, and now there are plans being made to get out civilians. There was a bit of concern over the weekend because the African countries whose nationals are in Sudan had not said anything, but we have seen a flurry of activities, especially in the region, like you say, Nigeria, Kenya, people being evacuated. People are making their way out of Khartoum by road, and then they're being picked into, Addis Ababa and Djibouti, and then they travel into their countries. So a lot of that, but the biggest concern also remains for the people who are remaining behind. As we know, we have people who've been told to shelter in place, just to wait. But again, they don't know how long they have to wait because they're running out of food supplies. You know, there's a power outage, there's an internet blackout, and even water is not easy to come by. So still a very volatile and fluid situation, even as pockets of violence are still being reported. We've heard of fighting in a place called Omdurman today, and also in Darfur in Western Sudan.
I wonder if you could clarify something for us, Mercy. I've been just listening back to what the UN Secretary-General had to say, and also Secretary Blinken from the United States. And they've been talking about extending an Eid ceasefire. Is there one in place at the moment?
So there's no ceasefire at the moment. So to say, there have been 3 attempts, all of them have failed, because even with the 3-day that was put in place for people to be able to come out, for people to access medical aid, the fighting factions, that is the 2 generals and their armies, have not been able to obey this ceasefire, and they are just accusing each other, saying it's X or the other party that attacked first, or it's the other party that is threatening places where we are based. So a lot of accusations, but nobody is really willing to a ceasefire or to hold fire at the moment, even for humanitarian passage, which we have not seen. And also people are saying, is this ceasefire just for other nationals, foreigners, to be evacuated? Because nobody's really talking about humanitarian passage, food getting to the people, and emergency medical aid getting to those who are injured.
Okay, and I know in terms of ceasefire discussions, Israel has in the last hour and a half said that they would host those two warring men to try and broker a ceasefire. Kenya has said that it is not closing its embassy in order to be present to help the move towards peace. However, what I'd like to turn my attention to very quickly is earlier the UK Parliament raised concerns about the presence of Wagner in Sudan. Secretary Blinken also very concerned about Russia's Wagner. Why and what are they doing there, Mercy?
So there have been a lot of accusations on, not only Wagner, but also other countries like Libya taking, sides in this war, and what the danger that people are afraid of, especially the international community and even the people of Sudan themselves, is, a proxy war where these people who are fighting, the two generals, get support from other countries. If Wagner is in the country and the allegations you're saying is that it is supporting Hemeti from the RSF, giving them arms, giving RSF weaponry and all that, then what we are going to see is interest from outside piling up into the already existing factions and already existing issues in Sudan. And then the danger is this will really prolong it. So whether it's Wagner or any other group that is operating outside Sudan in other countries, then the danger of a proxy war is really imminent, and that will definitely further divide Sudan. That's the fear that everybody has.
Okay, Mercy Juma, thank you very much indeed. I can tell you've got a very busy few hours to come. But for now, thank you. Now, Noon Abdelbasit Ibrahim joins us now with her to discuss her experience and how she made her way across the border to Egypt. Noon, I wonder if I could just hand it to you and just for you to tell us your story.
All right, thank you. So waking up last Saturday to the news that a war has just erupted with absolutely no notice was a very crazy thing, actually. When it first started, I mean, in Sudan, we're really no strangers to violence and hearing gunshots and all of that. But this time, it just felt very different. The bombings, the missiles, everything just seemed all too real. Having two parties that are both fighting each other with very heavy artillery and fighter jets was very, very scary. So on day 4, since the violence started, which was Tuesday, our house got struck by a missile. And that's when we decided that we had to leave. At the time, everyone that was fleeing to other countries, to other cities in Sudan and to the villages. So me and my family sat down, had a talk, decided that in order for us to be completely safe, because we did predict that the violence was going to move to other cities as well, we decided that the best option for us was to completely flee the country. We asked around and found out that the Egyptian-Sudanese border was actually open. So next day, started looking for buses, rented one out, and just hopped on and made our way to Egypt.
And how are you feeling right now?
Honestly, me and my family are all very blessed to be alive. Starting off this journey, I'm pretty sure, even though we didn't say it out loud, most of us didn't think that we would make it out. Thank God we did. But it is a bittersweet moment because my brother and 2 of my uncles actually did get left behind due to them not having a visa.
I just want to ask you about your country and Sudan. You've got 2 men that are fighting over power, essentially. What's your message to them?
My message to them is that what they are doing to this country, what they are doing to the people of this country, is not worth any power or money or status that they may gain from leading this country. They've killed enough innocent lives. They have taken the livelihood of so many people. People are running out of food, out of water. Hospitals are out of service. People, dead bodies are laying around on the streets. I'm pretty sure that the Sudanese economy will not recover from this in the near future, even if the war does stop. So my message to them is that there are other ways to solve the issues between them, and that they should put an immediate stop to this war for the sake of the Sudanese people.
Noon Abdelbasit Ibrahim, thank you very much for sharing your experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more insight on the situation in Khartoum, let's now speak to Johannes Voldemariam, an analyst and specialist on the Horn of Africa, who joins us live from New York. So what's your reaction to what has taken place today? It's been a very fast-moving situation, hasn't it?
Yes, indeed. It's been very fast-moving and very destructive. I don't recall anything like that happening ever in Khartoum. Things have happened in the peripheries of Sudan, in the south and in Darfur for many years. But Khartoum has been sort of insulated from this kind of violence. But what is going on in Khartoum now resembles more like Aleppo in Syria, or the way it used to be in Mogadishu, Somalia. It's a very sad thing because it was, as I remember it, living there, it was a very friendly city, and the Sudanese people, very hospitable and wonderful people. But you have two very strong men hardened by their criminal activities in Darfur under the president, the ex-president Omar al-Bashir, who are now engaged in a zero-sum game, and in the process decimating, Khartoum. And I'm not really sure if Khartoum can recover from this anytime soon in the future. This is a tragedy that's going on.
How do you expect this to end?
It looks like they are engaged in a zero-sum game, like I said, and
when you say a zero-sum game,
well, I mean, they are. It's like they want one of them wants to destroy the other, and you have the situation here, with the army and also the paratroopers of the Hemeti group, and they're just fighting to the death.
Can a paramilitary force, of course the Rapid Support Forces were former Janjaweed, can they realistically ever be absorbed back into the regular army?
Not really, because even the regular army itself has been packed by Islamist elements. Remember, Omar al-Bashir came to power by overthrowing a civilian government, Sadiq al-Mahdi. And after that, there was an ideologue named Turabi, who became internationally famous for inviting Osama bin Laden to Sudan. They filled the army, the national army itself, with many Islamists. And the paratroopers are not very disciplined at all. I mean, they were popularized and they were entrenched as a result of Bashir's policy, because he liked Hemeti for what he did in Darfur. And both of them, Burhan and Hemeti, were the ones who were really directly responsible for what happened in Darfur. And Bashir got, of course, indicted by the International Criminal Court.
Okay. Johannes Voldemariam, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.